Welcome to Webster Now with your host, Garrett Wagner.
All right, Webster, we're here with a special Webster Now episode because we got the Xerox solar going on. You've heard about it, and we want to hear from the residents. So this Thursday, April 2nd, at 7:30 p.m., there's the vote. Before the vote, though, we want to keep informed. So we're here with one of the residents. Eileen, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did you get involved with this? Let's go back to square one, if people don't know. How did you get involved?
Yeah, so one of my neighbors got a little card that said, come to this planning board hearing about a solar farm project. I didn't actually get it because I'm too far away from the distance from it. Yeah, we came out and got involved and started, learning more about what it was about and where it was going to be, which was very interesting because none of us knew about the waste dump that was, on Xerox property behind our homes here in the Meadows Webster.
And that's one of those things that, people that have asked that question of like, how did the homeowners not know? Well, most of these homeowners, when you bought your house, it wasn't like required disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just...
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because the builder, well, I don't know if everyone can see, we have a walking trail here. It's almost 2 miles around our homes. It's protected green space, and then we were told nothing would be built on that Xerox land ever. Yeah. So that's what we were told, and we didn't know why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes that's like, you see this with all towns, and Webster's not unique in this, of like, there's not always as much like future vision of what's going to go where. It's a little kind of like piecemeal of like, oh, yes, put this there and you'll be fine. And oh, put that there, and then someone comes here and like, I guess put that there. And that's one of the moving pieces the town has to kind of think about. How do you like weave this tapestry of a town together? And here you're seeing one of those things where the tapestry starts to get a little like messy. How did you go from just getting involved to kind of getting more residents involved? What got the residents organized?
I think we kind of banded together, just talking to each other. We're a pretty close-knit community, to be honest. And we do have a HOA board as well. Okay. That we kind of keep in contact with each other. So we just started getting together and trying to see what we could do about it once we learned more and more about the risks and what would happen to the land. So the neighbors really wanted to band together, just to the concerns with the noise, the loss of the 17.5 acres, and then the fact that it is on some toxic waste as well. So I think everyone was concerned about what was going to happen to the property. We bought homes based on this natural area being here. So I think that was really a motivator to pull people together.
And those are reasonable things for residents to think about, like, well, how does this impact me? Right? Because what I hear for a lot of the residents is no one is necessarily against solar overall. Right? It's a little bit more like, is this the right spot for it? Is the questions I hear being asked time and time again. All right, so you got the little mailer, or your friend got the mailer, you got involved. Yeah, a great community of people over here. I love that community working together. And then how has the process been of like organizing people and getting to speak? How's that been as a resident? Because it's great seeing residents like use their voice. Like that's what gets me most excited.
I think people want to get involved in different ways, and some people like to stand up and speak, and some don't. So I think one of the things that we did was we walked around to try to get a feel for how the neighbors felt about it. So we got a petition together for those that were concerned about it. That this was not the right location, and we knocked on doors in about a mile and a half radius that will be directly impacted by the project, and we realized that there's a lot of people that didn't want this here. And as we were meeting with them, we were saying, would you like to get involved, and asking them to come out and get involved. So people are interested in speaking. I know I've spoken a lot because I think I represent those that are maybe less interested in standing up and speaking, but I try to represent all of us and their concerns for the project.
Which is great to see. And then what is the take been of the residents of interacting with the town board?
We feel like we're not being heard exactly. I think lately it feels a little bit differently. I think the planning board was an interesting experience for us because we felt very like, please come and speak, but no thank you. So we felt a little bit like that was a lost cause, but I do feel like the board is starting to listen to us. I think it's an interesting process for me because I've never been super involved in things like this in the past. So for me, it's interesting to see how it all works. I think about things like the solar tower that's being put over here off of Lake Road and how you're thinking about the residents. So I know the board is thinking about us, but I wonder what else do you need from the 400 signatures that we have in order to motivate you to not put it here, and all the concerns that we're raising. And I think the big thing for me is, Montante and Xerox haven't done a great job of really answering our concerns. I know that the town was working with them to try to get that to happen, but I just don't feel like we're getting the answers we've asked for.
Yeah, and I always keep saying too, like with the town board members, they're just people, they're not political figures. They're just trying to do their job, and it can be hard, and it's been hard to like find that balance of everything. And it comes down to me that role of like, is the town board there to, big picture, is the town board there primarily to listen to residents and advocate for the town, or are they there to listen to developers and make their life easier? Like, or is it a balance?
It's a balance, yeah.
But and trying to balance those things can be difficult. All right, so going through this, then you took a unique step a couple weeks ago. You decided to foil some emails.
I did,
right?
yes.
So, and for residents that don't know, the FOIL process, almost everything the government does is public, right? And your access, you got to FOIL it. So how was that, if a resident's never done that before, was that intimidating, or what was that like?
No, it wasn't too bad. I work in a rather regulated industry, so for me it wasn't too foreign to do. And the primary reason I wanted to do it was I also know, in business that I feel like we're just seeing the outcomes, right? So maybe not all the steps that are involved, and not that I expect the town to show everything along the way, but I wonder if I was missing something. Like, why is this still going forward for a vote?
All right, so you went through the FOIL process. It wasn't too intimidating, which is great, and I love that. Anybody that wants to FOIL anything, you've got that right. Do it. See what's going on. What was your takeaways from looking at? Well, first, what did you FOIL?
I foiled the supervisor, all his communications, minutes, meetings. Anything really related to Montante and Xerox, in either way or both, all together.
Okay.
So I really wanted to just kind of see, did I miss something, right? Why is this still up for a vote? Why are we still proceeding forward when we have so many residents that are concerned about it and opposed for it? So what I noticed, it was very interesting, is there's not a lot of documentation in terms of meeting minutes, documentation between Alex and Montante or Xerox. And then I don't see the communication going out to the board either. I don't see a summary of the meeting, what was discussed. So it makes me kind of wonder, did I miss something? Is it someplace located someplace else? I didn't actually fold it correctly.
And so with that, as an actual board member, not just the host of this new show, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of communication from what's been done with Montante meetings that Alex has had to the board. So you're not missing something. There hasn't been a lot of that. That was a decision. All right, so that was the first thing. You were kind of surprised. What else did you see?
I did see him sharing information with Montante and Xerox, and it's unclear why, because honestly, when you're looking at it, you're just looking at documentation, right? So you're trying to piece together what you're seeing, and it just made me wonder why some of the things were shared the way they were, maybe looking at more holistic approach, like, giving examples of emails that are coming in from concerned residents to Montante and Xerox. And I'm thinking to myself, it would be better if it was summarized, like, here's what we're hearing overall, and here's our questions as a board, and giving them a full picture of it instead of just maybe one or two examples of what's going on. But
well, I think we get back to like about that tension between, are you there just to help developers or advocate for the residents, or is it that middle ground of, like you said, like, hey, we're seeing some questions. Here's those questions. Can we get them answered?
Yeah.
As I'll come versus just, I'm just relaying stuff through and nothing's kind of coming back.
It's hard to say, because it just looks like it's being passed because there's not enough documentation to pull it all together.
Yeah.
I would sort of hope that they're not a consultant. In my head, they're a vendor coming into the town to put a project in place. So you have to treat them like a vendor, and worried that I recognize that I'm sure the town board has to divide and conquer on projects and people lead certain ones. But I would hope that you would have another board member with you in these conversations, or you're sharing with them what's happening, because I'm not sure how all the communication's getting flowed back and forth. It just seems like I'm not sure exactly, to be honest.
And that's part of those things that any board, not just Webster's, got to work through. Of how do you, under the government framework, pull this together? Do you meet individually? Because we can only meet 2 at a time.
Right.
Okay, so you meet a lot of individual meetings. Do you send email summaries? What is it? And I think that's something where the Webster Town Board, under this new term that's only been 60 plus days, needs to kind of find a better path of more communication. Is almost always a better thing among a group, whether it's a board, a nonprofit, your coworkers. That always helps. Okay,
Yeah.
so first you were surprised by what was not there, the kind of the passing things through. Anything else that surprised you?
I just think in general, I feel like this project, unfortunately, the town doesn't have a structure for this type of project. It's not faced this before. This isn't a restaurant or signage being changed on something. So I was hoping to see a little bit more due diligence and sort of making sure that the planning and the building and the maintenance of it over time is really being questioned and thought through, because there's no structure for the town to really lean upon. So when you don't have that, I was sort of hoping to see more of those kind of questions and things. It just really wasn't there. But again, I only looked at one slice, so maybe perhaps it's someplace else. But I think that's the biggest concern that I have is are we prepared for a project like this? Have we done our due diligence and really making sure that for the next 30 years it's not going to have other issues down the road?
Yeah, I mean, we talked before. This is a big project. Will forever change Webster in whatever way it changes it. And are we really thinking through ahead of time what could go wrong? Are we thinking through this and just, is this right? And what about this? And how do we haven't done this before. This has happened before. We can ask other people questions. We can pull information. But how are we making sure before we just take this leap? And that's my thought, that we've done our due diligence, that it's not just a rubber stamp,
Right.
as someone likes to say.
Right. And I'm not sure what benefits Webster's actually going to get in the long term at all. Because I do think, based on the grant, that a lot of the benefits that you see are actually going to the state in general and not really coming back to us. So it's a lot to give up. It's a lot of clear cutting of trees and wildlife, and then even the safety risks that are potentially there. Even though I appreciate that they're not going to put on the cap anymore, there's still risk there. There's still substances in the ground that shouldn't be disturbed.
Well, and we heard before, like sound, sight, all those like moving pieces that, to your point, it's a little kind of like, what is the exact answer, because we don't have a definitive answer. So we're kind of guessing, and are we going to take a guess at this point?
Right. Yeah, because we've been raising the sound concerns. I don't know if people can hear that. The birds are chirping over here. It's quiet, but you get rid of these trees and this brush, that won't be here anymore, and then we'll just have the sound of the inverters. I'm not sure a sound study was actually done. So there's just a lot of questions around it, impact to our property values. A lot of folks here are retired. We have folks with young families, so this investment's important to them,
Well, and that's one of those things too, even like the impact of the property value, it's got to be unique to this, of like, okay, what is being done with this solar project in correlation to what's been done in other places for a true apples to apples, not a solar was gone in this area, which was part of a whole revitalization that took it from like, what it was before to something completely different, better, and everyone loved, and helped home values. That's very different. This is more of an isolated thing, because we still don't know what's going to happen with Xerox, how that property is going to change over time.
Right.
All right, so before we wrap up, I appreciate the time. You can see the sunshine. We're outside. It's beautiful. Any final thoughts before this comes up for a vote on April 2nd?
I really would love folks to come out, speak your piece, whether you want this or not. This is your last chance. The board does listen. We've seen that in other projects, so please come out, for or against. Really want your support on April 2nd.
Yeah, Webster, so as always, thanks for listening. Stay informed, and remember, every step we take is a step towards a better Webster.
You've been watching Webster Now with Garrett Wagner. Join us next time for more local news and updates.